Hello and welcome to this webinar brought to you by BBC Global Services, your source for medical compliant virtual assistants. I'm your host, Nathan Bush. Yep, that's me. At each show, we invite industry experts, innovators, and influencers to deep dive into the challenges and opportunities facing the healthcare practice. From HIPAA-compliant strategies to growing your clinic, as well as best hiring practices and real-life case study scenarios, we're here to help you stay ahead of the curve. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get started. Today, we're going to deep dive into several topics actually that are top of mind for many of you and many on our own staff for a show we're calling Ask the Owner. We've asked our staff and others to anonymously provide questions for today's show. And so we're honored to have our guest, Mike Yablonowitz. Mike Yablonowitz is the founder and CEO of BBC Global Services. So joining us today, we have the CEO on, and it's really exciting and important for you to take in the information and begin to understand kind of where we're at, where we're going, and some of the great things that we're doing here at BBC Global Services. Mike is a serial entrepreneur, guys. For those of you that don't know, since 2002, when he sold a web hosting firm that he created and self-funded. Since then, he started several firms focusing on digital marketing, financial services, a call center and operations, and our outsourcing organization. He previously served as the executive vice president of First Connect Internet Solutions, a New Jersey-based internet service provider. Mike received a Bachelor's of Arts degree in political science from Ithaca College in New York. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you. That was a hell of a intro there, Nathan. I appreciate that.
Well,
I
it's
am
exciting.
also pumped about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk today about all kinds of things, about team, about company culture, about vision. And so I'm really excited to be able to share with the staff and with you viewers that are out there, whether you're a physician or a clinician, you'll get to see the inner workings of our organization again, because these questions came directly from our staff members. So you're going to see all of the organization, the way that we do it and the way we display it. So let's start with this first topic of discussion here. And the topic of discussion is going to be company vision and stability, Mike. People want to know about the company's stability and your vision for the organization. One of the first questions that we got when we were doing our research is kind of how stable is the company?
Well, that's a great question. Stability takes a lot of different parts, but I'll pick the most important one. The major one is financially. We are financially stable in a couple of key roles. One, we're debt free. It's a big deal. Two, we have no additional investors. It's simply mine. It's simply me. And three, we have positive cash flow month over month over month. That is with continuing investment in research and development and ways to make our clients better by providing better client service and make our employees happier, for lack of a better term, by looking at different ways to constantly engage them and show them that they are an appreciative member of the team. So it goes two ways. One, the biggest thing for our clients out there is we're solvent, and we're very solvent. And for our people out there, which is what this is mostly about, is that we spend a lot of money in our culture and trying to do things better to make their lives happier while they're working. Because Nathan, for lack of a better term, no one wants to work. I mean, I don't want to work. But the goal is to do something that you at least like while you have to do this, 80% of your time. So we really work a lot and do our best to try to make it a good culture for everybody to come to work. So that's stability, right? So the two ways are, one, financial stability, and two, we try to do our best to give our employees the lifestyle they're looking for in a team that they choose, because that provides stability for them as well as for the clients that we serve. So I can go on forever about that, but those are the two biggest parts of stability in my eyes. And also another big part that you gotta know is that we do have a fairly large line of credit that we don't use. And that's to, again, if we ever find a good strategic partnership or something we really want to invest in that I can't do from a cash flow perspective, we have that without any issue. But that's not the way I operate, but it's always good to have that as a safety net.
For sure. And you talk about strategic partners. I mean, that brings me to kind of the concept of this next question here. And that is, what is the vision of the company over the next 10 years, Mike?
Well, 10 years, people have their own idea. I say that's a pretty far, you know, way to look. I know these questions came from our staff, but I think it's almost not responsible to go 10 years out. I mean, Nathan, I'm going to be almost 60 at that point. Um, but if the company is around in its same formation, it's just going to be the best, providing the best client service that we choose to do. I'd like to speak a little bit more about like maybe a I don't know, 1 to 2 or 3. I don't want to ruin the question that someone had here, but I think if I look more in a smaller time frame of like the 2 to 5 year, and with that it really is about, like I said before, partially about providing the best client service. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, let's talk
yeah,
about that though. Let's talk about the 2 to 3 years from now. If 10 years out is a far vision to kind of cast, especially as a CEO, because you got a lot of things that you're navigating. I mean, we just came out of a global pandemic, and
well,
we
yeah,
navigated that global pandemic for a number of healthcare providers,
mhm,
helping to be able to add additional resources and staff when they couldn't bring staff into their own offices. So, I it, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, but in the
yeah.
next 2 to 3, I'm sure you have some plans that you've been working on and things that you've been dreaming about and wanting to do. What does BBC Global look like in 2 to 3 years?
Well, dreaming about is interesting. It really is to continue to, create a business that is process based. We work very hard at creating a system that provides results that are planned and are expected. That's a huge piece. And in addition to that, it's really being able to provide, our clients with. So So we really pride ourselves on HIPAA compliant um, services for our clinicians and doctors. We have a HIPAA compliant office that everybody is works in. We have a third party company that audits us on a regular basis to make sure that we're living up to this ever changing compliance. Um, and my main goal in the next couple years, the next 2 to 3 years, is in line with my original point, which was to be process driven and to be able to do things systematic, while still maintaining that level of client service that people want to work with. Uh, I guess what that really means is that while everybody's when it comes to providing outsourced services for clinicians in the healthcare market, um, there are companies out there that provide resources, right? They provide outsourced staff and they stick them in the offices with the clinics, and they say, here's your staff. We're doing something a little bit different by we're not only finding the people, but we're managing them within our office. Uh, and that's different because it's kind of like that consulting to outsource role. Because not only are we saying, here's your new assistant, Johnny, but we're then making sure that they are providing the clinician with what they're looking for, that their behavior is in line, that they're HIPAA compliant because we have people managing them, right, while they're
Sure.
there, that they live up to all the expectations and the metrics that the clinician is looking for, you know, and that they're at a place where their internet doesn't shut off every 3 seconds, or, their their power doesn't go out because we have multiple internet connections and we have backup generators. So that is something that I think we do a little bit different than some of the competition. That's going to stand us apart, and I want to continue to really provide these doctors' offices and these practices with the continuity that they're looking for, so they can practice, what they want to do, which is patient care. I mean, a lot of these the clinics and the offices that we have that we support don't want to deal with any of this, right? So a lot of the other companies that are providing them with just a resource, right, doesn't really do the job because this resource doesn't know the culture of the US clinic, right? Doesn't understand the connection. Usually the doctor and the office staff doesn't really know how to connect with that with that outsourced staff. So what we're doing, and we're bridging that gap, is providing a true value for that doctor's office, because it's not only finding that staff member that can do the verification of benefits or answer the phone, but it's to ensure that they're doing it in a way that the doctor's office is looking for, and also seamlessly integrating within their culture, which could be their front office staff that really runs the business. So 2 to 3 years, we want to continue. And it sounds boring, right? But it's really, we want to continue to fine tune that process and really be the place where, we have this now with all of our referrals, Nathan, you know that, but really be the place where all these, smaller practices or even larger practices say, this company gets it, right? They're the combination of outsource and consultant. And that is really what I really, really am hoping for, and what I really am, what I'm putting forth all my effort with this company. From the beginning, I always talked about being a boutique outsource company, right? A boutique firm. And that's really kind of what it's, you kind of define yourself as you're growing, right? And that's kind of what this really has turned into be, is boutique in the sense of really providing a different level of service while still allowing the US staff to get the value and the continuity from an outsource provider.
Well,
That's
that's what's
that's like 2 to 3 years.
exciting for me too, working with BBC Global Services and helping to be a part of this culture and growing this organization, because we've got some future live casts and webinars that are going to be coming up in the near future with a number of clinicians and doctors and resources that are going to be there and available to help you,
Right.
potential clients and customers and clinics that are out there, understand this world of outsourcing, because not all outsourcing firms are the same. And so we want to make sure that you have a thorough understanding, audience, of what's the difference between what we do at BBC Global Services and what other organizations do. And to do that, we got to talk a little bit about our work environment, Mike. We've got
Mhm.
to discuss this concept of, how do we measure improvement as an organization, specific when it comes to the work culture and work environment?
Improvement when
Yeah,
it
because you
comes to
talked about
performance.
growing, right? So we've
Right,
grown over the
right.
last couple of years. We've added this clinical HIPAA compliant component piece to the organization, and we continue to define ourselves. How do we measure that improvement?
It's yeah. I understand the question. It's kind of a mouthful, and this is supposed to be candid. So 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 I look at it both in how we service our clients and how we service our staff. So, meaning improvement with the client service, as in, like I said before, providing them more value, showing them maybe different ways to do the same thing, giving them different ideas on making things more efficient, showing them new technologies that can make their practice better. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing, from an agent standpoint, really finding different things to make them happy. That's a really loaded, it's a really weird thing to say about happy. But at the end of the day, as much as I really do have an affinity for all the people that work for our company, and that's twofold. That's not totally altruistic, right? Because it's because of them I get to eat, right? Because they're the ones that are actually doing all the work with the clients. So I have a deep appreciation for what they do day in and day out. And I really do try to do our best to give them um, everything that we can in order to know that they're appreciated. I may be going off topic for a second, but the fact is that like when a lot of people work in call centers, right? They're you probably don't know this, but the staff definitely does. They're not really appreciated. They're seen as just a number, right? And they're seen as just a head. And we need more heads. We need more heads. When we work with the quality of clients that we do, the doctors, the clinicians, and all that sort of stuff, they're not looking for a head. They're looking for somebody that can join their staff and really make an impact in their culture. And to do that, you need to make sure, from our standpoint, that we treat our agents with the respect, and we do everything we can to foster that environment so that they know that they're well appreciated and that they really are part of client service and not just a number. And that's what we do on a constant basis in different ways, because that not only allows them to feel like they're taken care of, right? But to do that makes them work harder for our clients, right? Who rely on them to do this great work and show different ways that they can do things better. So that's kind of like the way I want to answer it. I know this probably, if there's any other way you want me to, if there's any other, because I want to answer these people. These are our staff, right? These are the people that run our
Yeah.
business. So I'm not trying to skirt anything. I'm just trying to get an idea on on the best way to answer it.
So
You know,
how do you know if we're growing? How can you tell that? How can you show the staff and know with the staff from a candid perspective? How do you know if we're growing and improving our relationships with clients, our internal team, that kind of stuff?
well, yeah, I mean that's all based on little things like when a client sends an accolade to a staff member. That happens a lot, right? This person's doing great. They really helped us here, and that's great. And and we share that with the entire office. Um, that's a big thing. And then another thing that that's big, and I'm sure we're going to touch on it, is just looking at the numbers. I mean, like I mentioned before, to be process based, what I want to do is that really we every single account, every single client has certain KPIs that we hit, right? Certain ways that they, that we're sure we're doing the job that they're looking for, and that's how we manage it. So that's a big deal as well. That's how we measure success. That's how we are able to, like, not only make sure we're doing the work that we're supposed to do for the client, but to know how good the agent's doing, not just some pure conjecture like, oh, Billy's doing great. Hey, Billy has consistently hit his metrics for the last, 2 months, and he's surpassed it. And he's thought of a new cool thing that helps the doctors out. That's all based on data that we collect and we measure. And then, again, from a pure monetary standpoint, I always look at how the company's growing financially, because that is a big part of how we're doing also, right? Like, how are we doing? How are we growing, not only from a money standpoint of new business, right? But the money that we're growing based on the increase of an LTV or long-term value or average. It's what our clients bring on new people, right? And that's another big part. Like if doctor starts out with one person and he identifies, oh my God, this is going great. And we show him, or they see, hey, doctor, we're answering the phones, we're doing, confirmations that your patients are going to show up and they're not going to, they're not going to leave you with a hole in your schedule. But you know what? We also do billing as well. Let's show it to you. Oh, great. Let's have you do that. And that's a big KPI for me, in addition to the KPIs that we're actually doing the original work that the clients want, coupled with the accolades that we get about our staff, to really show not only are we like growing from a monetary standpoint for new business, but we're growing the business that we have, which shows that there's just extreme value that we're bringing in. We're doing what we set out to when we signed up the account. Does
You
that
know,
make any
Mike,
sense?
It totally does. And what you're talking about being, the work environment, I really heard in your voice when I first asked you the question, your care and compassion for other people, caring about the people first that are in the organization, caring about the staff versus jumping right into the numbers conversation, which is what that question was asking about. And so, that also tells me that this next question was asked by the staff
Uh-oh.
is something that's near and dear to your heart to make sure that we're constantly guarding against this. So I guess the direct way to ask this is how will you handle toxicity if it appears or we identify it in the company at all? Because it can happen as organizations grow.
Uh, Toxicity, it's bound to happen. Um, we live by, and it sounds silly, but we live by certain rules and certain values that we live by on a regular basis. And I don't remember all of them, but let me see if I can bring it up. But from our company culture, and I'm reading it because it's very important to us, we always treat others the way we wish to be treated. We speak calmly and respectfully without profanity and sarcasm. We communicate honestly and with purpose, happily supporting each other both personally and professionally, and and showing appreciation. So if we're continuing to do that, the toxicity is something that we can manage pretty easily. And I know that's kind of skirting the question a little bit, but as much as we have a little bit of toxicity, usually it's based on that and communication to kind of work through it. There's luckily, knock on wood, we haven't had anything material that really demanded extreme measures. So, I think between living our culture and our creed, so it's exactly a better term, and listening to people and constantly communicating, we kind of skirt that a little bit. But the word toxicity really has a lot of different, connotations. So I would say that we do not have a toxic, work environment. Are there people that feel that they're slighted? Like, is everybody 100% happy? No, we got nearly 200 people. How can you do that? But from a toxicity standpoint, that's not something that I'm aware of. And if it is, you know, as I implore that that we should be openly talking about it if anybody feels like it's toxic. That because I'm not sure how it kind of came up, but that's how I'm answering it. And you know, I would know if something is truly toxic because it would show in you know KPI. I mean, I'm not trying to make it science. I mean, we are people business, but usually toxicity is shown in numbers too, right? So if we're working with a doctor's office and the person's constantly gone or he's not showing up in time, and that's usually kind of indicative of they're not happy with the environment. So as much as, like I said, we're a people business, we really can measure it in the KPIs as well. Did that really answer anything?
I think so. I
Yeah.
mean, because you're known as being a firm and fair leader.
Hmm.
Like people know you for your compassion that are on our staff, and they
Hmm.
also know you for your genuine, adherence to policy,
Hmm.
procedure, guidelines, and those
Yeah.
types of things. And one of our staff members wanted to know, how can you be a compassionate and considerate leader and at the same time hold people accountable and do these kind of candid things that you do so well?
It's very. It's just a type of person. Uh, uh, and people know me. So everybody has their own style, right? Of managing or even being a person. And mine simply is if people take care of me, I take care of them. It's very simple. So, and it comes back to the other thing, right? Also, I need these people, right? Like, this isn't like we all work together on a common goal. Like, without having them, I have nothing to strategize to. I have nothing to build. I have no growth. I have nothing. They have to be happy in order for this machine to continue to turn. So, with all that being said, though, I also, with that, I have to be able to make sure that I am I am really being honest and true to everybody as well. So, perfect example is if someone comes to me and says, I got to take tomorrow off, I'm having an issue. Sure. Like, go, do it. Do it. Someone has a problem with their family member, we'll send care baskets. We'll say, and that's not because I'm such a great guy, Nathan. It's because these people go above and beyond to make me a living, and to ensure that all of these people that we support, right? Like all of the people we support, all their families are taken care of. So if someone needs help, I'm going to help them. If someone needs a leg up, I'll give them a leg up. Like it's just because we all work together on it. We all work together in the same way to get this really, you know, together. Because it
Yeah,
just
for
doesn't. It's
sure.
just not me. Can't be me.
For
But
sure. Well, and
with that being said, Nathan, and people know it, like I also don't negotiate with terrorists. So, like, if somebody like is having a behavior issue, if they're being a jerk, if they're not doing the work, they're out. Like they're out.
yeah.
But
Well,
anybody, yeah, that wasn't. So that's the other side of it, which is important to know.
we definitely have a compassionate culture here at BBC Global Services. We care about each other. We do little fun things for each other, and our offices across the globe, whether they're in the Philippines or in India, I know that the leaders there carry that same thought process through of compassion and care, but also
Yeah,
bringing candor and accountability to those cultures. So
yeah,
it's important because I think that this question and then this next question didn't come from any of the leaders. They actually came from people who are working on.
yeah,
If you're watching this on replay or if you're a doctor and you're here today, these actually came from a lot of our ground level boots on the ground staff that's working in your clinics and in your offices. So just keep that in mind. These questions are a candid conversation. They're designed to help you better understand our organization internally and what we stand for. That's why we wanted to bring Mike Yablonowitz, our CEO, up to have this conversation. So
And
the
one
next
more thing,
question,
can I say one more
go
thing
ahead.
about
Yeah.
the because again, it's important that people know that I also, and I don't know if there's like, we also want you guys to speak up and say what else you feel from a benefit standpoint would work out well. Not saying we're going to do every one of them, but there are certain things, Nathan, that we've done, right? Like the first thing is that we've, about a year and a half ago, we provided interest-free loans. One of the things that is a horrible thing over, especially in the Philippines, is that people take loans out to buy products, or even sometimes, like, it's not even. I'm going to generalize as an ugly American, but the Filipino culture takes care of the entire family, right? So, if someone's making good salary, they're taking care of. They, for the most part, they're taking care of their families and all that sort of stuff. Like they're, when our parents take care of us and we go out and we make a living, we take care of our new families, right? Sometimes we take care of our old families, but the Philippine culture, a lot of times, is an expectation from the parents that, okay, you're a manager now, you're making this, okay, now you take care of us. So there's a lot of times that people get jammed up, for lack of a better term, financially. Not a lot, not that they want to buy a new TV, right? But you know what? Their mother just went to the hospital, okay, and they need to pay a certain fee to get her out, right? And we'll, again, we of course take care of that, and then we deduct it from their salaries in a way that does not impact their lifestyle. There are also times when people take out loans, that are to get a TV, right? And again, like unlike the U.S. where we have usury laws, in the Philippines there's not. So, like, I'm not saying that we're here to, you know, we're not a piggy bank for people, but for people that work for us and work hard, if they get jammed up in a situation that's like a hospital bill or something, or even they took out a stupid loan because of something or other, we will help them out for the most part, especially if they've been with us for more than 6 months. I mean, this is family members, right? So we will take that for like a hospital benefit. We'll just take it out. And if it's due to like an overspending issue, we will pay that back, and we will take it away from their an industry loan. But we'll also provide them with financial literacy courses that they take. So not only do those literacy courses not only show them how not to get jammed up in the future, but it shows them how to save also, right? Like, and that's all part of what we do, because that was one of the main things I saw over the last, like, almost a decade. That is an awful thing overseas. And so we do a lot of things like little things like that, in addition to paying competitive wages, to really show that we're here to kind of help, and we're here to support our staff, right? Because they support us.
Sure, sure. One of the staff members brought this up. They because we, with a HIPAA compliance, we require
Hmm.
all employees to be in office. Where I don't know that all the other, competitive organizations that are out there do the exact same things we do, because we actually have hired a consultant to come in and ensure that we're HIPAA compliant, because we have U.S. based offices and
Hmm.
Filipino based offices. So, are we considering a hybrid work setup? Is this even going to be possible?
So I'll answer this two ways. One is, excuse me, when we went through COVID, all right, I we had to go, hybrid. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, we had to go hybrid, work from home. We had to go do social distancing. When we got out of COVID, I said, you know what? There's no way we're going back to the office, because there's more than just COVID, right? There's other viruses, all that sort of stuff. However, with that being said, I could not get a proper con- consult from our compliance firm that said that if they're working from home, they're HIPAA compliant. So all of our healthcare workers are in our offices. I'm hoping at one point, like, there'll be some more guidance, but right now it's such an ever evolving compliance, like I said before. And if somebody gets tagged with that, there's a monetary penalty, and our clinicians, doctors count on us to manage that. So, for lack of a better term, we do not feel that working outside of the office, where cell phones need to be put in lockers, privacy screens, all that sort of stuff, is we feel that that's the only way that it works, and that's what our guidance has shown. Our council has told us. There are things that people put on computers that can measure what they're doing and where they're going and what websites they're doing. But you know what? At the end of the day, that doesn't stop someone's boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever coming with their cell phone and taking a picture of the window of the uh, of the monitor. So I'm not willing to take that risk. Our clients and clinicians aren't willing to take that risk. So until I get guidance that I can share with our clients, we are not going to be going hybrid for healthcare workers. With that being said, Nathan, we do pay an extra fee to people that are in the office. So it's not like that. So they do get paid a different compensation. And also, we tell them up front that this is our culture and this is what we do. So they choose to do that. And, from office work, they being in office, they have a pretty fun time. And we do spend a lot. I mean, I spend a lot of money in cleaning, Nathan. I mean, I think, a lot, because not only do I not want people getting sick from altruistic standpoint, you know, availability for our clients is huge. Like, if people are out, how many campaign assistants can we have on staff to take over, right? Like, so I really was hoping to go to a hybrid environment for everybody, but until I get different guidance, we're gonna continue in this fashion. Does that make any? I mean, that's really like what it comes down to.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, the HIPAA compliance is a major piece of our business. In fact, so much so that it's part of your 2 to 3 year vision that we were talking
Yeah.
about. And so it is imperative that we follow the rules, the laws, the regulations, because it's part of our culture. We do the right thing, we follow the rules. We're that type of organization. And so because we follow the clinic's rules too. When they come to us and they say, "Hey, follow this process," we follow that process. We just do the right thing. So anyways, we're going to move on. I've got a lot, we've got a lot of time. We've been about 35 minutes into this 1 hour candid conversation with Ask the Owner. If you don't know who this is on the screen right now, you're talking with Mike Yablonowitz on our Ask the Owner webinar with BBC Global Services. If you're catching this on replay and you fast forwarded, we're going through candid conversations, questions that were directly asked by our employees and anonymous others that have brought in the information into our organization and said, "Hey, we want some of these questions. Can you share, answer some of these things?" Because we asked them to ask the questions. We said, "Hey, we want to know because we're a transparent organization. We also want to make sure that you know how we operate so that you can be better prepared if you're going to add staff with us or if you're going to add a new staff member with us." And so we appreciate that. And so we're going to talk a little bit now, Mike. We're going to change gears and talk a little bit about employee development. And before we hop too far into the employee development train, I'd like to talk about personal development. It's hard to say you do this class or you do this course, but I'm not growing personally. So one of the first questions that the staff members had asked here, as it comes to employee development, is what do you do to grow? Like, is the CEO, is the owner of the organization? What is your growth strategies or plans for yourself?
Um, my growth, besides in my waistline, which seems to be growing as you get older, um, I actually do a lot of reading, and not just Facebook Reels. Like I do a lot of that, but I do a lot of reading in business books, um, motivational books, like all the John Maxwell stuff. Um, and because you know, it really allows me to either learn a new thing here and there on how to be a better leader, or like reinforce things that people tend to forget when they're leading, right? And that's what I do a lot to kind of better myself. There aren't any courses at this point for me that I found is more valuable than just spending more time reading. I know it sounds like a Gen X thing, but it's the truth. I mean, that's where I get my information from. I love when I hear a different book, um, and it may not just be all about, you know, one business or another, but it could be about anything related to business or motivation or teamwork, and that's really kind of how I keep present. And I do. I mean, unfortunately, I mean the news is a little bit biased nowadays. We're not getting into that conversation on this webinar, but I do keep up with with local politics and the news, and I do listen to both sides because being an international company too, geopolitical issues are important. The forex, the how much how the let me buy a vowel first. You know, the currency exchanges. If the ripple how things shift overseas could have an impact on us. Uh, and I also spend a lot of time looking at the weather overseas. The typhoons, whether or not there's like, I mean, people just look at before they go out for their day, they look at, the local weather to see, if they put on a sweater or not. I'm looking in like my, provinces in the Philippines and in India to see like, are there any typhoons, any hurricanes, any earthquakes, anything going on that we should know about? And, so all of that together is kind of how I grow as a leader and how I maintain, how I use current news to kind of maintain my existence, so to speak.
Sure, real short and quick, just for my own knowledge.
Yeah.
What's a good book that you've recently read that you would recommend?
Uh, um, Crossing the Chasm is a good one that I read. It's about how
Love
you
it.
can. Yeah. And the art of money, the psychology of money was really cool too. That's a really good one. Also, it talks about how people see money all different ways. So those are two that I would recommend reading.
Crossing the Chasm and Psychology of Money. There you go.
Yeah.
So if you guys are looking for a good book, those are
No, it's not a
two.
good book. It's interesting. It's not a good one.
It,
Good
it,
good one is like The Firm by John Grisham is an oldie but a goodie. But like, yeah, these are like, yeah,
they're good because they grow us, right? And so the
yes,
same way that they grow us by reading, and that's some things that we can do on our own. But is BBC Global going to have any future enhancement trainings or trainings to develop the staff? Is there any additional programming that you have in the future planned?
yeah, we do. We have provided we provide training for people when it's needed for their opportunity for their job. But we also are consistently looking at ways that we can provide training internally to get people more to to kind of cross to kind of cross pollinate. It's wrong, but to have them learn all different facets of the business. We have a BBC Trainer Central, which is our own training online training course where we put in all these different aspects of the business where people can go and learn and get better. We're also looking at, I know it sounds silly, but like not silly, but Google Classroom to start teaching people different parts of the business. And but in addition, people are always at Udemy and all these different places to learn different skills that we pay for on a regular basis. A big part of constant growth, not only to maintain the account that they're on, is to allow them to move and to grow because people, you know as you know and as I know, you always want to grow, right? Whether or not you're doing a great job, you also want to know that there's something else possible. Whether or not you decide to take it, you also a lot of people want to grow and learn new things. So we do as much as we can with that to keep people um, moving forward. Uh, it's part of it's definitely an initiative that we do, and we've done a fair job at it. As a growing company, we do invest in that, not as much as I'd like to, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah,
we
for sure.
do provide additional training, and we try to always promote from within when it's when it proves appropriate. Because not only do people want to move and grow and that sort of stuff, but how better who better to get to promote the peer people that already know your culture. With that being said, it's important to note the the HVA, the healthcare virtual assistants, are a different breed than what's used to, right? When you're part of a customer service campaign and you're part of a lead generation campaign or even development, you can move, right? Like you can move from one thing to another thing and become a manager. And that when you're an HVA, right, a healthcare virtual assistant, we call HVA. If you're, it couldn't be you can be with that doctor's office, and it can be forever. And that's the change in mentality that we constantly work with, is to realize that it's okay to be within that organization, right? It's not a bad thing to not have a level up, a traditional level up, right? They're going to get paid, you know, more than anybody else. Like, because again, we don't see like that because you're doing the same thing as necessarily a bad thing, right? Especially in this case, because it means that you're doing the right thing. Now, a lot of times within the doctors' organizations, they find different things for the VA to do, right? So it kind of works itself out like that as they're working in the clinic office, like they're doing different things. But that's the one thing that we work with the healthcare VAs, is the fact that that just because they're not technically moving somewhere doesn't mean they're not any less valuable, right? And that's something that's big. Cool thing though is that if a clinician office adds more people, we always have that person that's been there, that knows the culture, be involved in the hiring process. So, and then a lot of times, as much as they could be doing the same work, they have a team of people underneath them. So from a perception standpoint, they're getting a leg up. But in reality, for anybody that knows what we're doing, they're the lifeblood of that organization, of that clinician's office. So it's a different with the healthcare VAs. It could be a different breed of growth, so to speak.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we do
really
more. Yeah,
what you're talking about is the well-being of the clinic that they work
right.
for as an HVA. What you're
Mhm.
talking about is the well-being of the employee, and it's important to our organization. These
Yeah.
well-being isn't just, the ability for education and growth within your role and growth within that clinic, but it's also important that our employees understand that's part of having good employee well-being is that
Mhm.
you do your job, you do it well, and you do it exceptionally well. And if you're in part of a campaign where you're, crushing it, our organization, we reward and take care of those people who go above and beyond. And so we're going to talk about that and building team culture in just a minute. But I really want to dive into this conversation about well-being and the well-being of each employee. And really, Mike, one of the questions that came in was asked, how do we intend to prioritize the happiness and well-being of our employees? And so I'll let you take that one directly.
I can answer that politically, but it's not going to help anybody. Um, Employees going to be happy in their job with us is when their client is happy. We're all in
That's
client
pretty
service.
pretty
We're on
plain and
client service.
simple.
No, no, and I'm going to be. And we're all in client service. I said the same thing. We serve the client, so they'll be happy if they make their client happy. And we will continue to do what we do in order to provide them a compensation level that is more than they should hope for in
So
both
then,
money and in all of the soft skills all the other things that we do.
so how do we
So,
do that though, Mike? How do we support employees that are consistently exerting themselves, going above and beyond for these campaigns?
I mean, we have to treat them. We have to live what it is that we talk about, right? We talk a big game, right? About the culture and all sorts of stuff. We have specific things that we do in order to show the gratitude, right? Not just lip service, but we do a couple. There's a lot of things. I'm going to showcase a couple things since this is candid, okay? But one thing is that we have. I'm going to talk a little bit about the town hall quickly. Is not only do we provide them with transparency, where we have once a quarter we have a town hall that we invite the entire staff to, where we not only showcase certain strengths of that quarter for the people. We talk about key accomplishments. We introduce brand new team members. We provide benefits, compensation benefits for being a team member of the quarter. There's a lot of different things that we showcase, and then we also show all of the different events that we've done. Because again, we do, like I mentioned before, we provide a lot of employee engagement activities where people go, on cruises, dinners, lunches, all these different ways to try to provide and foster that community and that culture. So that town hall is the culmination once a quarter, showcasing all that to the entire company, right? Because it's hard to build a culture, when you have people in multiple different countries. And the only way to do that is to come together at least once a quarter and showcase that and talk about that. And that's what we do. And not only do we give these awards out virtually, and we introduce new team members, and we have also something called cause for applause, where people nominate other team members and say why they did something special. It's just a great way for everybody to come together, get some recognition, and also really know that, hey, they're part of something larger. In addition, I do spend too much time, but I try to keep it to 10 minutes kind of talking about, where we are financially, because I think that's important, because you did mention at the very beginning, people want to be, confident that they're at a company that's stable, as people say, right? So we talk about where we are financially, as well as stability is not just in money. It's a big part. It's like 80%, but it's also what you're doing, right? So for me as a leader, I talk about where we are to our goals. Like in the beginning of the year, I talk about what our main goals are. And then during these quarterly meetings, I talk about whether we're hitting them and what we've been doing to get there. So not only does that time spent give the accolades and everybody gets to meet each other and we meet new team people, new team members, and we give out awards, we give away, financial rewards, statues, presentation, all that sort of stuff. But they also get to really have a few minutes of legitimate, not just smoke and mirrors, but numbers from me, the CEO, that has them say, okay, I'm at the right place, right? They're doing what they said they're doing. They're going to do. And again, I'm not saying I'm perfect, Nathan. Please, I'm not perfect at all. That's not what I'm saying. We're just doing everything that we can to build a culture and to provide transparency to a company that's international, which, some companies can't do that within their own 3,000 square feet in the US. And we're trying to do it, internationally. In addition, we also have something that we put together. And actually, I'll give the credit to David Justice, who is my VP, put together the High Performers Club. And what that is once a quarter, we provide, we indoctrinate employees who have lived up to a standard of an excellence for that quarter. And that is literally geared around client service. It is the people that have surpassed or met or surpassed their KPIs for their clients, had a certain small amount. We have attendance measurement that's a very small amount of attendance. So this is something that it's akin to President's Club in the US. It is really a badge of honor for a lot of people. They get maybe sometimes a jacket, they get an award they can put on their desk, and they get a financial reward that's significant. And not only that, that also weighs into, right, their yearly review that everybody gets. So that is another part of what we build when you talk about benefits and culture, is that being part of the High Performers Club, I should be wearing my shirt, is really a badge of honor. And it really is something that's, set after. And then in addition, with culture, we're constantly doing cahoots. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's international gaming. And we do our best to really, knit together a culture along, across the world. Is it perfect? No, nothing. And there's some people that are probably, some employees are oh my God, it's not perfect. But let me tell you something. It's probably better than 99% of the other call centers out there. I can easily say that with confidence.
And I know if they're watching on replay
Yeah.
right now, or they're watching live right now as a staff member, I know you that are watching, that are in the High Performance Club, I know you absolutely love it, because you guys talk about it all the time. You share it back
the
and
entire
forth.
quarter, right? I'm
Yeah.
oh, let me see. How are we doing with the KPIs? What are we doing? But you know what? That is it works for everybody. It works for the agents. It works for the clients. It's just, it's an amazing thing. And it's not special. It's just something that, it is special, but it's something that everybody should be doing. It's nice.
Yeah.
I want that to be there.
You talked about how you take 10 minutes at the beginning of every single town hall meeting to discuss the financial stability and the health of the organization. And we've got about that amount of time left, with lots of questions that have still come in from the staff. And so we want to be
Also, I'm
honorable.
totally cutting you off right now. But the one thing I failed to mention is this whole Ask the Owner is part of the transparency. and all that sort of stuff. It's all part of it because remember, like people wanted to hear from us more than once a quarter. So I said, well, we can't spend every day talking. But this Ask the Owner was the main reason why we started this was to answer these questions of the employees, and we will continue to do that. Again, another level of transparency. So
Yeah,
I
and
didn't
we're
mean to
going to
cut you off,
bring
but that's, that's all
no,
part of
no,
it.
and part of our transparency with these webinar programs, just to clients and staff and everybody else, is we're going to not just the owner, not just the CEO of the organization, but we're going to have other team members, high-level leaders in the organization that we bring on to give you, the audience, and to give you, the staff, answers to some of the questions that you have about our organization. Maybe you don't have these questions. Maybe they're just information overload and
Mhm.
information share. But I hope you're getting value out of what Mike is talking about today. I hope it's helping you if you're running a clinic to grow your clinic. I hope it's helping you to understand what we do at BBC Global Services. And if you're a staff member watching this replay of the show or you're watching live right now, I hope you're getting the answers to the questions that you had asked. I mean, these are directly from you. So all we did was go through the questions, put them onto a question list that I'm looking through here and making sure that we get your questions answered. So that's what we're doing. So we got about 7 to 8 minutes left, and we got a lot of questions left to get through. I'm going to share some kind of questions more in rapid fire style now, Mike. And
Mhm.
so let's work through some of these questions so that we can make sure that the team members get answers to what they're looking for. So the next one is, how do you motivate an unhappy employee?
How do you motivate an unhappy employee?
Yeah,
That's a great question. That is an absolute great question. Again, I hate to use generalities, but it's through communication, right? Like, so if someone's unhappy, it's really has to do with, a couple things, right? Either one, it has to do with management, right? Two, it has to do with like that they're not happy with the campaign that they're in. Or three, it has to be that it's just because of them, right? So again, really from a business standpoint, like an employee is extremely valuable, right? If you spend time recruiting, training, indoctrinating, you know, spending that's a ton of time and money. So of course, from a business standpoint, you want to make sure that somebody stays as long as possible because it doesn't make any sense anywhere else. I mean, forget about us. Like, think about the doctor's office that they're in. So, but however, like, and I said this before, and I know people like, you don't negotiate with terrorists either, right? Like, so if someone's having a behavior issue, right, then we can't do anything with that, right? And that's part of them being upset. But if it's something related to, like, it could be anything, right? But if it's something that we have control over, like it could be a management issue, like I said, it could be, it could be a, it could be burnt out in a campaign. Burn out a campaign, if we have something else for them to do, great, we'll move them, right? If it's a management issue, we'll work with that manager. Um, and sometimes, like, it's a mental health issue, and we do have benefits for mental health, and people don't like talking about it, but that sort of thing we can help with a little bit. Um, so, in answer to your question, like, we will do a lot to kind of take apart an unhappy employee and see what it is we can do to help them for not only the altruism of trying to help a fellow man, but also from a business standpoint. Why do we want someone to leave that can do the job, right? So I hope I'm being honest, I'm being 100% honest. Like there's two sides to every coin on this sort of thing. And also it depends on how long they've been there too, and how much blood, sweat, and tears they've given for this organization will depend how much we invest in in making sure that we're sure the investment that we give to them is directly related to the investment they gave to us.
for sure, for
So
sure.
that
Let
makes any sense on that end. I say it a lot because this is candid and I'm not prepared for it, but it's the truth. So we really do methodically break down someone being unhappy, and we do everything we can to make them happy, for lack of a better term. And sometimes it just you can't do anything. But a lot of the main things that we work with is people that aren't happy because of, again, there's a lot of family issues that we try to help with, right? Debt issues we help with, mental health issues because of all these things we can help with. Burning out on a campaign, we help with probably 5 times out of 10. We're not, we don't have tons and tons of campaigns to move people around in, but we definitely try to move people around if they need to be. But sometimes people just need a change, right? I mean, it's the one thing that people don't want to believe too. Sometimes you're just in the wrong place. And as much as we spend a ton of time in our recruiting process to try to make sure we get the right team member for like all of these reasons of the costs and trying to build the right culture, sometimes people just aren't in the right spot and they just got to go. And I always, and I don't do a lot of the firing anymore. Of course, I don't do any of that, except for like sometimes I'll have to if it's higher level. We don't have to. We've had the same management, Nathan, since like I started this. Like I'm lucky, but like whenever I had to fire people in any other companies, like the only way I could get through it is the fact that to say that I'm doing them. This is awful, but I'm kind of doing them a service, right? If you're getting fired from your job due to lack of performance or behavior, you're just not in the right spot. You're not a bad person, right? You're just not in the right spot. So for me, getting rid of you, hopefully you're going to find that right spot the next time. So I kind of deviated off the course, the path, but I really firmly believe that. So like it's, unhappiness is, we can do so much and we do the best that we can.
What do you think are three of the biggest strengths of the company right now? If you had to pick three, what are the three biggest strengths of our company?
Really working at our culture to come together as one company internationally, our listening skills, and our overall management strength. The management, like I said before, been here since day one, the same people. Um, and we've had a lot of the same staff for multiple years. And I think, like I said before, we ain't perfect, okay? But we do our best to listen, communicate, and foster a culture that people would want to be in.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, so we made it through the business questions, Mike. These were
Oh
all of
no.
the business questions that the staff and the
Oh
team
no.
had. So you've done that. A couple of lighthearted, kind of more personal questions that the staff had for you. What do you do outside of work? In what do you do outside of your professional life?
What do I do outside of my professional life? I
Yeah.
do nothing outside my professional life. No, I have, many people know, I have a wife, I have 2 children, I live in the suburbs, I have a bunch of friends. Like I go out, we go to dinner, we go to parties, we go to concerts. Um, I like music a lot. Uh, I do like sports. Uh, I do spend a bunch of time watching either football or basketball with my sons or with my friends. Um, I enjoy vacationing when I can. I am more of a sit on my butt and relax than go on a hike vacation person. Um, and yeah, I do like, and I'm more of a believe it or not, I'm more of a homebody than I am of a adventurer. So I enjoy just chilling out with my family and my friends, spending time with them. Um, you know, that's kind of what I do in my spare time.
So those are some of the things you do in your spare time for fun.
Hmm.
But I'm sure as a CEO, it's got to be from time to time, especially as an organization continues to grow. It's becoming a very, you said boutique, but I mean, gosh, how many employees do we have now? Like
I
119,
think we're up to like
120 employees,
180 or so, 180. Yeah,
180
yeah,
employees. Wow, it's faster growth
yeah.
than I even remember from the conversations that we had a couple months ago. So like incredible. So that's a lot of people and probably stress. What do you do to handle stress?
I kick my dog. No, I'm kidding. No, I do. I do a lot of stress. I like I said before. Like I really do just spend time with my family. I try to decompress. Um, you know, that's it. I mean, I do exercise on a regular basis. That's a big part of like me handling the day to day stress. I mean, it's not a lot, but I spend about 30 to 45 minutes every single morning doing cardio. believe it or not, even looking at me. And that's a way that, it allows me to focus before the beginning of the day and really be able to kind of have a clear head and take on each day, um, not bringing the last day to the new day. If that makes any sense. Um,
Yeah.
and that's it. And I also, like I said, I spent a lot of time with sports. I played a lot of sports growing up, so I did a lot of coaching. I do a lot of coaching of my young children, basketball, a little bit of football. We did baseball, like the whole thing. We're a very sporty family.
Okay. So one of the team members here has, do you watch the NBA then, I would imagine?
Oh, yeah, huge NBA fans here.
What's your
Huge.
favorite team?
The Knicks. The Knicks are my favorite team. 100%. New York Knicks, all
Not
around.
the Nuggets?
No, no. I did go, but again, it's funny. Whenever I would go, that's what I do too. And if I go to see a client, my whole thing is I take them to a basketball game. It's new. Like people are like, oh, people used to go to dinner. Now I go to a basketball game. It means I get to go to a different basketball game in a different city. Yeah, we love basketball. Love it. I try to go to the Madison Square Garden as much as possible with mostly my son Jack, my older son, who plays basketball. We have just a ball. But yeah, we watch as much as we can.
And one of these times we got to do a whole show just talking about like family and
Oh my
because I know you
god.
love your family
Yeah.
so much.
Oh.
But speaking of food and dinners, one of the other questions was, what Filipino food have you enjoyed the most?
I'm not gonna. You got a lot of you guys know me. Um, I really don't adventure at all. When I'm there, it's kind of like a short term type of thing, and I try to keep my palate as neutral as possible because I do not want to encounter any type of diarrhea or anything like that while I'm trying to get certain things done in a short amount of time. So Albert will tell you this, and everybody tells you that. I am a big Starbucks person. I eat mostly in the hotel. One time that I actually did venture out, and I was feeling a little. It was in 2016. I was a little confident I was there. I got really sick, like really sick, and not even just the food. Maybe I was a little neurotic at the same time, but like I wound up leaving. Like, I went home. I was like, I gotta go. So
No.
I'm very I keep my palate pretty neutral when I'm there. I'll try some. I have tried some things, but I mostly do stick to and again it also there's a feeling that it is the Philippines, it's a third world, right? But like where we are, our city, like it's pretty bustling in Davao and even Cebu. There's like 3 Starbucks, right? They have like they have Dunkin' Donuts. They're good. They have malls with like I don't have to eat street food. I'm good. I'm good. I promise one time I'll be there in October. Maybe you guys can convince me to do something.
Oh my gosh. So to completely change gears, but along the same lines of lighthearted fun questions, what is the best TV show of all time for you?
I just it's gonna be so boring. But being again at my age group, I would definitely say it's a toss up between Friends and Seinfeld. Um, I'm very boring, I know. I mean, I could definitely say Nip Tuck if anybody have seen that one. That was bananas. It was about like two uh, uh, what's it called again? Two doctors. What kind of doctors were they? I forget. But they're two doctors, and it was plastic surgeons, and it was a wild show. And if no one's ever seen Nip Tuck, it was like in the early 2000s. Bananas.
Well, you know that we talked a lot about culture and we're
Mhm.
a global organization. So, one of the questions that we received, is it possible for a staff gathering working with all employees from all countries?
So I do romanticize about that. No two ways about it. Uh, to do that would be an egregious use of an egregious use of funds that I am not sure that the business would appreciate doing at this point. However, I am absolutely going to do it. So I'm trying to figure out what that number would be before I could do that. But I would suspect within the next year we will definitely do something kind of like a resort in the middle between India, the Philippines, and us here. So I've been looking at it. I've been looking at it. But again, like this business, like I always say, is bigger than me. It's bigger than anybody. Like it's a growing organism that supports a lot more than me. So I have to make decisions on behalf of the business more than behalf of what I want. And yeah, like I want to, I would love to be able to, take everybody to a resort and party, and we're going to do that. But I have to kind of figure out where that is. I mean, I have such a, I mean, again, I don't get me wrong, I don't mind spending money, but like I really have a tough time as the business is growing to take anything out of the business that's not directly related to um, the people or like R&D, like generative AI. Like we spend as much money as we possibly can on R&D. Like anything other than that just seems so wasteful. It's kind of the same way I am like personally. Like don't get me wrong, I don't live modestly. Like I try my best to do what I can. But I always do the same thing. Before I buy the new car, shouldn't I put more money into my savings, right? Or my kids' college fund? Like, so I'm very, very responsible when it comes to like what we're doing with our money. And I think that's part of the reason why, like, why our company is as healthy as it is from a cash perspective. So, but again, I'm going to figure it out within the year. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate, Mike, you taking the time to have a candid conversation with our webinar today, Ask the Owner. I have recognized some things and some themes that have come out of this conversation. Number one, our organization is focused on culture. It's focused on communication. It's focused on compassion, and it's focused on doing the right things, a values-based organization. So those things, those kind of themes came out of our conversation today. And I think it's important that the team understands, if you're watching this on replay or you're watching this live right now, there are some action steps that you can take right now. And some of those action steps include, if you don't see this happening in the culture, if there's something that you don't understand or doesn't make sense to you, talk to your manager, talk to your supervisor about this stuff, because it's extremely important that you understand where we are as an organization, who we are as an organization, and where we're going as a company.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that are interested in BBC Global Services, if you'd like somebody from our organization to reach out to you, maybe you're considering a medical VA, you can always go to bbcglobalservices.com. That's bbcglobalservices.com. And on there, you will notice there's a chat function. Just go ahead and jump into the chat function, and somebody from our organization will reach out to you and help you set up the conversation to explore the concept of utilizing a medical VA within your organization. I'd like to thank everybody for participating. For sure, I'd like to thank you, Mike Yablonowitz, for taking your precious time to have this hour and 13-minute long conversation with the staff about the things that were most important to them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys are watching again on replay, make sure that wherever you're watching this, you share a comment, you share something in the notes, you share, if you see this online, I'm sure you'll see videos online on our YouTube page, also on Facebook. You'll probably see some of these videos that are chopped up and sent out on YouTube. So if you're watching any of this on replay, make sure you share out that content and make sure people know who we are, what we stand for, and what we're trying to do. So thanks for taking the time, Mike. Thanks, guys, for attending the BBC Global Services webinar, Ask the Owner.
Thank you, guys.
See ya. Bye.